The Dom Life Podcast presents Real Talk.
A BDSM Back to Basics mini-series intended for listeners 18 and older.
How are you feeling over there, Lady D?
I'm not feeling the greatest, but I am here.
You are here. So you're a little under the weather.
So this is a good topic to do when I don't have to talk very much,
Exactly.
when I can't talk very much.
So tonight, for our Real Talk episode, we're going to be discussing how to be a good dominant.
You're pretty good at it, so I think you're gonna knock this one out of the park.
Well, I like to think that I'm good at it, and I know you say that I'm good at it, but I do got to say, while setting down and trying to come up with my bullet points for the important stuff to hit, I think I have learned that I need to do some self-reflection and focus a little more on what I'm fixing to say.
Okay.
So first off, being a dominant can be tough.
It's 100%. I agree with that. It is tough.
And I have said it once, I've said it twice, I'm going to say it here again. It is like having a second full-time job.
If you're doing it right.
If you are doing it right. Because this day and time, everybody says, take care of yourself, do what you feel is right for you, all that stuff. So being a dominant, not only are you having to take care of yourself, mental health, physical health, now you're having to take on the same for your submissive. You have to put your submissive first. You have to put their concerns, their safety. All of this is now in your hands. And it takes a lot. And if you're not careful, you get very relaxed in the role. And that's where things start slipping away a little at a time. So I think it is really good, not only for our listeners, but also for me to have this episode. Because again, it's time to do a little self-reflection and focus on myself as a dominant and try to be even better than what you think I am right now. Because again, I've been questioning some of these things that I've got down here.
That's part of the reason that we do the podcast is so that
Yes.
we can reevaluate where we're at.
Right. So first off, to be a dominant, I guess one of the most important things to know is all of your power comes from what your submissive will let you do. So if you have a submissive that doesn't want this or doesn't want that, or at any time takes all the power back.
There is no such thing as a dominant without a submissive willing
Correct.
to be dominated.
Right. So you have to have the submissive, and you can only control what they are willing to give up to you. But to be a good dominant, I've made a few bullet points here just of some things that I think, and this is my opinion, this is what I believe it takes. Other people will tell you other things, but I believe of everything over the years that I've read, that I've watched YouTubes on and all of this kind of gets a good start to it. And this isn't the only list. There is so much more to this.
Yeah, we're doing bite size.
And we're doing bite size. And this may roll into 2 episodes. We're going to see how far we get in this bite size episode here. And we'll see how far we get. But for starters, you got to have self-awareness. You have to know yourself, what you want, and set expectations.
Yes.
Because if you don't know what you want out of it, it is very hard to be a dominant, because a dominant is very strict, is very stern, is very clear. There's no blurry edges. Everything's black and white. And if you don't know what you want or your expectations out of it, you are not going to be able to set those guidelines
For your submissive,
for
who
your
then
submissive.
is going to fail in their tasks because
Right.
you're not defined.
Yep. To be a good dominant, communication. We've said it almost every episode. I don't even remember what episode number we're on right now, but you will hear communication in every episode. I almost guarantee it. You have to be a good communicator. On the flip side of that, you have to listen well too.
For both roles,
Yes.
submissive and dominant, there has to be listening and acceptance.
Yep. So you have to be able to communicate, and you have to know when not to communicate, and open your ears and listen to your submissive for their wants, their needs, their desires, and know when something isn't safe for them. So
Right.
you're listening for all of that. You must have respect. And in my notes, I put respect your submissives, but I think it goes deeper than that. You have to have respect for others, period. Whether they're your submissives, whether they're a coworker, whether they're somebody you meet on the street, you have to have respect.
Which surprises me. I completely agree. But what it brought to mind is how often there are dominants that come into the playroom or into the dungeon
Yes.
that do not respect the other people that are there.
Right.
And it's the submissive is being guided in. The submissive gets put up, but it's the dominant that should be respectful
Absolutely.
to those around them.
Absolutely. So again, I'm even kind of changing what I even have typed out here for our bullet points, because as I'm sitting here talking it through, I'm seeing changes. So respect for others has to be there to be a good dominant. You must understand safe, sane, and consensual. Every scene, anywhere you go, out in public, at home, everything must be done as safe as possible. We've talked about BDSM. BDSM is dangerous.
Most of the things that you're doing in it can be dangerous.
But anything in life is dangerous. Driving down the road is dangerous. Everybody has to be as safe as possible. BDSM is no different. Everything has to be safe, sane, consensual. Everything gets negotiated. Everything gets laid out on the line in the very beginning. Once you start building that relationship and building that trust and communicating, we don't negotiate scenes now. I pretty much have complete control over how a scene plays out.
But that's because if you were pushing my boundaries,
Yes.
that would change.
Right.
But if in the normal dungeon scene that we do, I agree, there's a consent that's already been
Right.
put into place.
Right.
But if you were trying to break boundaries, break some of my soft limits,
Right. Or hard limits.
or hard limits, then there would be some negotiation prior
Right.
to.
And I sometimes during a scene, I will ride that soft limit line that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I will sometimes take your soft limits and kind of nudge just a little bit past it. Some days is great, and we can go a little past those soft limit lines. And some days we can't. Some days I get up to that line, or you're like, hold up, yellow. We need
Right.
to talk about this. So it all depends on the mood and how everything is. But yes, most of our scenes, we don't have to negotiate. I know what you like. I know what you want. I know what you crave. And that's pretty much what we do.
Right.
Confidence. A dominant has to be confident. You cannot be a dominant to somebody for second guessing yourself, especially having to question your submissive. Where are we going to eat at tonight? What movie do you want to watch? You have to be confident. And although it's okay to ask occasionally, but a dominant should already have his mind made up. Where are we going to eat? What are we going to do? The next one is a huge bullet point on my list. Willing to admit their mistakes and learn from them. Dominants are human, and everybody makes mistakes. It's going to happen. Hopefully, it's not a huge or a dangerous mistake, but you're going to make a mistake. You're going to do something wrong.
It's the same thing we were talking about with the rope play. If you can't ever say that you didn't put somebody in danger, because it does.
Right.
If you play long enough, it will happen.
It will
I
happen.
remember.
But for me, and what I was taught a long time ago, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's a mistake isn't a mistake if you learn from it. So you learn from your mistakes, you grow because of that, and you move on.
Right.
So be willing to say to your submissive, I screwed up. I made a mistake. This is where I went wrong. This is what I will do to change it from ever happening again, and move on. It goes right back to that communication. You have to have that talk, and you have to be willing to admit it.
I feel like there's a lot of dominants that do not do that.
Oh, yeah. But to me, those aren't true dominants. And we'll get to all that here in a little bit, some red flags and what not to do. Knowing limitations to play and punishments. And that all goes back to the very beginning of your negotiations, or the beginning, the negotiation of a scene. Know your limits during play and punishments. We talked about it in our Real Talk episode, Scene Creation for Punishments. Never punish your submissive if you are angry and cannot control your emotions. You have to be able to know your limitations. You have to be able to know your submissive's limitations to play into punishments. You don't want to set a punishment that is going to severely damage, scar your submissive, whether it be physically or mentally.
Right.
So knowing limitations, definitely huge. Another way to become a good dominant: talking to other dominants or watching other dominants.
That's part of the reason we did the whole series of interviews, so
Yes.
that you could hear how other dominants run their relationships. And these are people we respect
Absolutely.
and we know in the lifestyle.
Right. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to our full episodes on interviews, make sure and check those out. That's the whole reason for doing it. Different perspectives. We can sit and talk how we do it all the time, but the fact you get to hear how others do theirs.
It surprised us a couple of times.
Absolutely. We learned so much by doing those. And then the last thing I have on my list that's going to be ever growing for my personal use: self-control and patience. And the self-control goes back to the punishments. It can also go to placings. Self-control. I love having somebody on the cross, whether it's you or whether it's somebody else. And depending on what music, depending on what mood I'm in, there is times I really want to amp it up, and I really want to get after it, and I really want to let my dom come out full blown, but I can't. Have to have that self-control. The patience comes in with the punishments. And it goes back to, if a rule is broken and you are severely upset by it, or you are severely angry, that is not a good time for a punishment. You got to have that patience to think your thoughts through, to calm down a little bit, and then to set the right punishment for the broken rule.
I think that you have a lot of self-control and patience. I think that those are strengths of yours,
Right.
because you never fly off the handle. I'm not saying you don't get upset or angry, but
Right.
yours is always a controlled anger. I'm the one that has the anger that blows up or doesn't is uncontrolled when it comes out.
Right.
I control it up to a point, and then once I flip, I'm no longer in control. And during those times, you tend to lock it down even harder and show even stronger control of
Right.
your emotions rather than amping it up with my own.
Right. And that ties in as well to being a good dominant is knowing what kind of mood, this is not on the list, knowing what kind of mood your submissive is in. And that comes with just experience. That comes with time. You're not going to meet a submissive for the first time and be able to judge that. So that's where you learn. That's where you make mistakes and you learn from them. But getting the experience, knowing the moods, being able to see them without you saying a word, and kind of knowing how to get around that by, number one, not causing you to blow up even more.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, to find the right way to get you to calm down. I mean, we all can agree that when a woman is upset, the best thing to do is to tell them calm down, right? That's the best thing to do. Absolutely not.
No.
And if you could talk, you would be arguing with me right now.
Yeah.
But it's finding the simple, easy ways of saying calm down without saying it. It's
the biggest way is
taking,
to keep yourself calm,
Yep.
to acknowledge, accept, understand, but stay calm during
stay
that.
calm and take the actions to make calm down, to
Mhm.
make them calm down. And I'm going to say them. And I want to say submissives, she, her, because it's you. You are my submissive. You are my only submissive.
Right.
So when I talk submissives, I'm automatically wanting to say she and her. But I realize, and we know male submissives.
Yes.
So therefore I say they, them a lot when I want to be saying tell her or she will be. So that's the reason for that. You will catch me pausing on that because, again, I don't want to disrespect nobody.
Correct.
I don't want to misgender somebody, but I also understand there is a lot of male submissives out there, and they deserve the same respect as, to me, a female submissive. So
We've also met some non-binary too.
we've met a lot of non-binary.
So
Yep. I think we're going to have to continue this next week.
sounds like a great plan. Maybe by then this sinus infection will be all gone.
Hopefully. So make sure and come back next week as we continue on with this list of how to be a good dominant. I've got several red flags to look out for. And we're also going to talk about a little bit about meeting for the first time and how to vet properly.
That goes both ways.
See you next week.